All right, did y'all refresh?
Yes, sir.
King, let's go.
Roland, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Do you mind if Mike starts us off with prayer?
No,
After
fine.
you.
We'll do that. We'll do that. I just need to
All right, we're
make sure
ready.
we're up.
We're live.
All right, Keenan, we're live.
We're live.
All right, folks, we are back for the second hour of Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network. We also are live with our Win with Black Men call. We've got some great guests lined up. We're going to kick this thing off with prayer with my alpha brother, Mike Blake with Kairos. Mike, go ahead and get us started.
Father God, we come to you at this hour to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here once again. Thank you for the ability to be in your space. As we celebrate this anniversary on the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, let us recognize that our job is not done. Let us recognize that our pursuit for freedom is not done. So for us as Black men, we have more work to do, and we're excited to do that work in the legacy of Dr. King to Dr. Durley, in the legacy of a Gilchrist and a Davis, and the legacy of a Wes Moore and Andre Dickens. Whoever the name may be, we say thank you. We thank you for those that have come together, for all that are here, from Women with Black Men and Collective, for Black Star Network, for Kairos. It is our moment. It is our time to step up and to lead once more. So we just ask for you to watch over, guide us, and protect us this day and every day. We ask this in your name. Amen.
All right, then, Reverend Dr. Mike Blake, we appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Folks, we've got some great guests lined up, including Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, Garland Gilchrist, Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, Austin Davis, and also Congressman Stephen Horsford, chair of Nevada, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, who's also been named today co-chair of the Harris-Walz presidential campaign. Of course, this is our Win with Black Men call. We've had a couple others before, but of course, we've been making this thing happen. I want to bring in right now Khalil Thompson, the executive director of Win with Black Men. Khalil?
Roland, so good to see you. So good
Yes,
to
sir.
see you. How are you, sir?
Great.
I know, just wanted to send some prayers over to you. I know it's been an interesting week. So you're in our thoughts and prayers, brother. I want to start this call off by letting everybody know this is a monumentous occasion in history. Today, on August 28, 1963, was the March on Washington. We are all here gathered on this call tonight because we believe in the power of our voice and our vote. We know that this is a performance review for all of those who are running to be elected officials. But even more so, we believe we have the greatest and best candidate in Kamala Harris to be our next president of these United States. Tonight, we're going to hear, as our host and moderator, Roland Martin, said, some dynamic speakers from Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis of Pennsylvania, and Gilchrist from Michigan. I know we have Jevian Hodge and CBC Chairman Congressman Horsford's going to be on shortly. Again, just excited for everyone to be here, but want them to be on the lookout. Today, we sent our resource email out, the top 5 things that you should know about Kamala Harris and the Walz campaign. We're going to be hearing from voter protection from that campaign and what we need to do to protect our vote going into this election cycle. But again, I'm really excited for all to be here. My team member, Mike McQuarrie on Women with Black Men, is going to take this conversation over for the rest of the night. But excited with my co-hosts, Michael Blake, Quentin James, Bakari Sellers, and Roland Martin to be in this work with each and every one of you.
All right, appreciate it. And so, what Khalil was representing Thursday, my sister, Kenya Martin Williams, passed away at the age of 49, and so I'll be headed to Houston tomorrow for her funeral on Saturday. So I certainly appreciate all the thoughts and prayers as well. Let me go to Quentin James, president of Collective PAC, as well as the Vote to Live Action Fund. Quentin.
Hey, Roland, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. As Khalil mentioned, this is a historic day, and we are on a historic march towards this election. The biggest thing I want people to know is we are now entering election season. While election day is November 5th for most Americans, folks start receiving ballots next week. In North Carolina, people requested absentee ballots by mail. Early voting starts in Pennsylvania on September 16th. And so we are literally 10, 20, 30 days away from people casting ballots in some of the most important swing states. And so over the next few days and weeks, you will be getting text messages, emails about volunteer opportunities. We will need you all to help us make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of phone calls, text messages, and even knocking on doors to target the right Black voters to turn out and vote for Kamala Harris. And so we'll have more information about that in the next few days. But again, thank you all for having me. Thanks for being here. We'll get a little bit more into the conversation throughout the evening.
All right, Quentin, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Joining us right now, Bakari Sellers, author, commentator on CNN, and also attorney.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Bakari Sellers here. Roland, I want you to know that you are somebody we look up to and adore, and during times of need and times of prayer. It's groups like this that lift you up, and I want you to know that we're lifting you up in prayer. I love you. I love your family, and I hope that you can feel my prayers probably won't make it all the way up, and so I'm going to have the twins pray for you tonight, so I make sure that we get through at least.
I appreciate it.
I love how we had Michael Blake out here praying as well earlier today. I won't tell him that I tried to drink all the tequila in his club on last week at the DNC. But look, guys, the rubber's meeting the road right now. These calls have gone from, kind of kumbaya, this is our candidate, let's mobilize, let me tell you the reasons why, to activation. There are action items we must take. We must realize the deadlines to register people to vote. We must understand the early voting deadlines. We must gas up the buses, the church buses, the D9 buses, the showing up at the high school football games, the homecoming games, our alumni associations, all of those things. Now is the time where we must turn it up. I can tell you that I do believe that the Vice President of the United States is keenly aware of these calls and hopefully will be joining us in the near future. But regardless of what is happening on the campaign, we must continue to lift. I'll share one little nugget with you. Here in South Carolina, at the University of South Carolina, much to the chagrin of myself and Joe Tecca and people like Steve Benjamin, they are having and pardon my language, Reverend Blake, but they're having a roast of cumula. They spelled it Cumala on the campus, housed on the campus of the University of South Carolina. I tell you that Milo Yiannopoulos, or whatever his name is, the former chief of staff for Kanye West, and one of the more misogynistic, racist, xenophobic individuals we've ever heard of, and Gavin McInnes, who is I may be pronouncing his last name wrong, the founder of the Proud Boys. They are going to college campuses to try to mold these young minds and just talk in the most derogatory terms possible. But this is an opportunity where we as Black men can stand firm, can stand and lift up these young folk, can be in a position, and I will send information out, particularly through Quentin and Michael, about how we can help mobilize these younger groups. The NAACP at the University of South Carolina is doing great work there, but it's just, if you think it's bad, like I've always told people in South Carolina, one of the things that we say is that when they go low, we go to hell. And so we're going to have to meet them there just to fight for our sister Kamala Harris. I love all of you all. I'm very appreciative of all the love and support. Let's just keep this going. Roland, my prayers are out with you. I love you probably more than you know. So I appreciate your work, your words. And as your family goes through this time, remember that only when it's darkest can you see the stars.
I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you so very much. Thanks a bunch. We've got a couple lieutenant governors who we want to get on very quickly. Michigan is a critical state for Vice President Kamala Harris. Governor Tim Walz joining us right now. He's been on two of our previous calls. The Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, Garland Gilchrist. We want to go to him right now.
Roland, my brother, thank you so much. Thank you to Bakari, to Quentin, to Michael, to everybody who came together to host this, Blake. Thank y'all so much for the leadership you showed, for bringing Black men together for this important movement at this important moment in our present and in our history and in our future. I'm Garland Gilchrist, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Michigan. I wanted to give you a quick update on, I'm a little bit biased, but I think this is a state that will be pivotal to deciding this election. And so I want to let folks know a couple of things. The energy continues to be really incredible in Michigan, coming off of when the vice president and the governor came here a couple weeks before the convention. People are riding high coming off of the convention in Chicago. But now, as we wake up here on another day in Michigan, there's more voters to contact and more work to do. I'm kind of taking the lead role in making sure that we are reaching out to Black voters in the most effective way possible and to younger voters in the most effective way possible. Michigan has made some big changes in the last 2 years with the Democratic trifecta that we have alongside me and Governor Gretchen Whitmer that I think are going to make a difference for voter turnout that we have to take advantage of. First and foremost is that, absentee voting is going to start in Michigan the day after my birthday, September 26th. And so we want to make sure that as many people are requesting absentee ballots in our state as possible. We have our organizers trained up and ready to do so. The second thing is that we implemented early voting here in the state of Michigan, have 9 days of early voting. So we're encouraging people, for those who may not vote absentee, but to go and vote early so that votes can be already cast and ready to be counted quickly on election day. Because it's important that we really leave no doubt about this Michigan victory. And the bigger that it is, the less susceptible it will be to the inevitable legal challenges that are going to come from it. But the third thing that really inspires me about what we're seeing in Michigan is this unprecedented energy from young voters. So we passed a pre-registration law so that 17-year-olds could get registered to vote ahead of their 18th birthday. And Michigan actually has now almost 80% of our 18-year-olds registered to vote. A bunch of them have signed up to register to vote just in the last 5 weeks since the vice president has sent it to the top of the ticket. That's exciting because I think that most of those young people are coming in prime to vote for the vice president. But now we got to do the work to actually organize and meet them where they are and talking to them. And so I'm meeting those folks where they are all across the state of Michigan, in the city of Detroit, where I live, in places like Flint, Michigan, and Benton Harbor, Michigan, where a lot of Black folks live, but also in places in rural Michigan where these younger voters are hungry for a clean energy future that we can deliver them in Michigan and in America. So I'm really enthused and encouraged by that, but registered voters aren't good enough. We need to have actual voters, mobilized voters, engaged and informed voters. And the resources that come from a call organized like this one help us be able to build the team, to build the squad, to do the work, to reach the people, to have the conversations that frankly only we can have, to not have a generic conversation about voting, but a real conversation about power, a real conversation about the future, the future that you want to see, the way that voting can help you get there, that it is one step to take to seizing the power that you already have, and know that we're going to try to be a model for that here in Michigan. I'm hoping that as many people as possible on this call actually make it their business to come see me in Michigan so we can organize, mobilize, and energize more and more people. I have events happening through September and October that I'll make sure that the team is able to make folks aware of. We've had surrogates coming in already, and we'll see more and more as we go forward. So just thank everybody for being open to that, willing to step in and stand tall alongside us here in Michigan. As Michigan goes, so will go the country, and we plan to go for Vice President Kamala Harris. So thanks, Black men, for stepping up and being you.
Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's go to another lieutenant governor, folks, in a battleground state that is Pennsylvania. Joining us right now, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing great, Roland. Hey, great to be with all you brothers today. My condolences to you, keeping your family in my prayers as well. You know, it's great to see so many Black men energized and ready to mobilize for Kamala Harris. I have been so excited as I've crisscrossed Pennsylvania for the last few weeks talking about the vice president's message and what the great things she's going to do once we elect her to office. But, you know, we've been having real conversations, particularly with Black men who, quite frankly, feel like the system just doesn't work for them. And I think it's going to be important that Black men show up and talk about and talk to each other about how we can begin to solve some of the biggest problems in our communities, why we have to be engaged in the electoral process. I've been proud to chair the Black voters for Harris of Pennsylvania to help make sure we're turning out Black voters, not just in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but all across Pennsylvania in small communities like Erie and Chester and McKeesport and Aliquippa, because we know Black people live everywhere. I want to echo the invitation that my colleague LG Gilchrist gave. Pennsylvania is going to be a close state. We know that the last election was decided by half a percentage point. I believe this election is going to be equally as close. We really could use all hands on deck. I've been so excited to see the energy on the ground here in Pennsylvania since Kamala Harris ascended to the top of the ticket. We've had over 40,000 people signed up to register with the Democratic Party, sign up to volunteer with the Democratic Party in this election. So we are super excited to see the energy on the ground, but we need to translate that into doors. So if folks want to come to Pennsylvania, I want to meet you. I want to campaign with you. I want you to engage with us because as Pennsylvania and Michigan goes, the country is going to go. And it's so critical to make sure that we use every power in our resource to elect Kamala Harris. And look, the alternative isn't just a bad candidate. The alternative is Donald Trump, somebody who has openly espoused racist views, who has openly talked about taking America backwards, who we know what he did when he had 4 years in the White House, and that wasn't center of the concern of Black and brown people. So I'm proud to be with you all in this fight. I look forward to helping to lead us on to victory here in Pennsylvania. I believe we will win, but we have to do the work to get there. So thank you all for being here, and it's great to be with you all in this fight.
All right, then, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis of Pennsylvania, we certainly appreciate you joining us on this call. Just to give some folks perspective in terms of how we see these things changing. Polling data comes out all the time, and let me be real clear. When you look at this polling data, and we keep saying this over and over and over again, don't just get focused on polling data. Vice President Kamala Harris keeps saying, run as if we are behind. Run as if we're operating as underdogs. Fox News polling comes out, shows her up 2 points in Georgia, 2 points in Nevada, Arizona, showing down in North Carolina. Polls are going to change every single day. Not a single poll has ever won an election. What wins elections are when people show up, turn up, and turn out. And so those things have to happen. Also understand what's happening in Texas. They moved some 1 million people in terms of off the voting rolls. So we want everybody who's watching and listening to check your voter status. Go to iwillvote.com. Check your voter status. We see these shenanigans happening in Georgia, in Florida, and other places. And so we want you to always protect yourself when it comes to voting. And when I say, folks, why our voting matters, I'm going to use the example of Wisconsin. I'm going to bring up former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes of Wisconsin. In 2022, he was running for the United States Senate against MAGA Senator Ron Johnson. Well, what happened? In Milwaukee alone, it was a tight race. You had a lot of third-party groups and PACs who were pouring money into there, saying he wanted to defund the police, who were attacking Black Lives Matter, all those different things. 50,000 fewer people voted in Milwaukee. 50,000 fewer people voted in Milwaukee, just Milwaukee, in 2022 than the people who voted in 2020. Why am I saying that? Because many of us turn out in presidential elections. We don't turn out in midterms. Same thing happened. Obama gets elected in 2008. We don't show up in the 2010 midterms. 16 state legislatures flip. Republicans take control of governor's mansions, take control of one of the branches in the federal level. And then you begin to see all of these laws then coming out. Well, in Wisconsin, 50,000 fewer people voted in Milwaukee. Mandela Barnes loses to Ron Johnson by 26,000 votes. If those 50,000 people show up in 2022, we're not introducing him right now as former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. We'll be saying, here is U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes. That's why we must understand every single election is crucial. So let's go to Mandela Barnes right now.
Hey, man, thank you so much for setting the stage. And I got on a little bit late, so if condolences are in order, please accept them from me. Didn't get to hear the situation, but know
appreciate
that
it. Appreciate it. It's my sister who passed away, but go right ahead, my brother.
Yeah, man, certainly sorry to hear that. I'm glad you set the stage. I'm glad you talked about my race and the importance of the context of where we are now versus where we were 2 years ago, because at this point, late August of 2022, I was way ahead in the polls, but unfortunately had been left behind. And there was just this battering of negative attack ads that went up on air from third-party groups. You mentioned the 26,000 votes that I lost by, the 1%. That all equal to $26 million that my campaign was outspent by third-party groups. And these are the same folks that are lining up, planning to do the same exact thing to Kamala Harris. I was at the gym today. I saw it was essentially the same exact commercial from 2 years ago. They just took me out of it and put her in it. And they're going to try to do everything to distort her record. They're going to try to do everything to make a monster out of her. And that is why we have to stand up and mind the gap. That's what we have to stand up and show that we won't take this lying down. We won't take people just showing up to our communities trying to tell us who we are. And, quick shout out to lieutenant governors in Pennsylvania and Michigan, because you did leave out Wisconsin, the two of y'all, but that's okay. I'm here to say that Wisconsin is the most important swing state, the swingiest of the bunch, if you will, given the fact that Donald Trump won Wisconsin by about 20,000 votes. Joe Biden won Wisconsin by about 30,000 votes. As was mentioned, I lost my race by 26,000 votes. So very, very narrow margins. But when we show up, we win. And the way we get people to show up is through constant and sustained engagement. We have to make sure people believe. We have to make sure people trust us. We have 70 days to do so. Now, the energy is through the roof. As so many other folks will tell you, it is something magical that is happening right now, but it will not sustain itself. All this excitement does not sustain itself. It just won't exist because we want it to. It exists because we put in the time, the effort, the money, the resources, the blood, the sweat, and tears to get Kamala Harris over the finish line to become the next president of the United States of America. Now, we're all coming down from our DNC high, and I don't want us to feel that we had so much fun during the DNC, whether you were at home or whether you were at the United Center. I want you to think that we had so much fun and excitement that we can't get to work the next day. That next day is already here. And so for all the folks who are on this call right now, who know somebody who's still on the fence about whether it makes sense, whether it even matters if they show up to vote, we have to change hearts and we have to change minds. And the way that we do that is through organizing. That's how I got my foot into this arena, is through grassroots organizing. And I got elected to state representative in 2012, lieutenant governor in 2018, the honor of my life. But I can tell you it was the power of the people behind me that got me to either of those offices. And we are the people that have to show up with the power to elect Kamala Harris. So just want to say thanks so much for having me. I know we have iwillvote.com for more information to get folks involved and engaged. Want to just say thank you to Brother Blake, Quentin James, Bakari, everybody who helped put this together. I know I'm forgetting some names. I didn't even want to start saying those names, but thank you so much. But even more than the organizers, the people who are participating and the people who are going to go outside after you close the laptop and go make a difference in this election. Want to thank y'all.
Mandela Barnes, we surely appreciate it, bro. Thank you so very much. Folks, I told you a little bit earlier in terms of the latest polling. Fox News poll shows in Arizona, 50-49, Harris over Trump. Georgia, 50-48, Harris over Trump. Nevada, 50-48, Harris over Trump. North Carolina, Trump, 50-49 over Harris. Now, when you look at those Senate races, you see much wider margins. And so you see literally 8 to 10 to 15 points for the Democratic senators running in those states compared to the presidential race. And so the reason why that's important, the United States Senate is crucial because if Democrats hold onto the United States Senate, that's how they'll be able to confirm federal judges. 200 federal judges have been confirmed under Biden-Harris. 58 of those federal judges are African-American, 37 Black women, 21 Black men. More Black female appellate judges have been appointed and confirmed by Biden-Harris and by the Democratic Senate than all previous presidents combined. When you see what's going on today, the Supreme Court made a decision regarding a Biden student loan program. When you look at a federal judge making a ruling when it comes to the abortion pill, when you look at a federal judge making another rule, making multiple rulings regarding various Biden policies, we have to understand federal judges are crucially important. The Congressional Black Caucus has been pushing hard for Senator Dick Durbin to move on those federal judges, but also on those U.S. Marshals, those U.S. attorneys that have been appointed. And Congressman Stephen Horsford of Nevada, who chairs the Congressional Black Caucus, has been very outspoken about that. He's bringing him up right now. He also has just been named co-chair of the national campaign, Harris for Walls. And Congressman Horsford, to that particular point, again, just underscore for people who don't understand the connecting of the dots in politics, why when you talk about winning and victors goes, the spoils go to the victor, why we must understand that holding the Senate is crucial, because when you have U.S. attorneys, they're prosecuting under Biden, Harris, and Kristen Clark in the Department of Justice these hate crime cases. They're prosecuting redlining cases. They're putting these cops and these jail wardens and corrections officers in prison for heinous acts against folk. And so we can't just be so locked in the presidential race. We got to realize those U.S. Senate races are just as important.
Well, good evening. It's great to be with you, Brother Martin. It's good to see you, Brother Blake, and all the organizers, and to the brothers that are on tonight. Look, we are 69 days from victory, and it's going to come down to each and every one of us and our vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for president and vice president, but also to make sure that we put Democrats in the majority in the House. We make Hakeem Jeffries the next speaker, that we expand the majority in the United States Senate and add representation by bringing Angela Alsobrooks, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Colin Allred to the United States Senate. And I'm glad that you are touching on the importance of the federal judges, the U.S. attorneys, and the marshals. Today, in fact, we have a number of brothers who are still waiting on their confirmation, but because of a blue slip process, a tradition that dates back to Jim Crow, unfortunately, those confirmations are being held up. We know federal judges and how important those are, but those are lifetime appointments. U.S. attorney and federal marshals serve at the pleasure of the president and only during the term of the president. I'm proud to have been named today, in fact, as a national co-chair for the Harris-Walz campaign. And it's not about me, but it's about the fact that we need to have a seat at the table when we're talking about issues that are important to the Black community and to Black men specifically. As chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, we have been working throughout this Congress to develop our own agenda around Black wealth and economic prosperity. I'm proud that we've joined forces with Vice President Kamala Harris in order to make this a centerpiece of her campaign. And the fact that she's already announced a number of the provisions of her economic plan that speak directly to lifting up Black communities, as it will lift up all communities. By building 3 million more homes in America, bringing down the cost of rent and making housing more affordable, something that is really important to Black men as we provide for ourselves and our families. Making sure that we pass a new child tax credit and increase it to $6,000 per child for families with young children. That is something that is incredibly important, because under the Biden-Harris administration, when Democrats were in control, we lifted 50% of Black children out of poverty through that child tax credit. Those $300 a month checks per child, that was Biden-Harris and Democrats in Congress. And under Kamala Harris, she has already proposed to increase that to $6,000 per child for young children. Also, her focus on entrepreneurship and making sure that we protect the tools of opportunity, particularly for business owners who are trying to grow their business by pursuing more contracts, by getting more access to capital at a time when Trump's Project 2025 would defund the Minority Business Development Administration, defund programs under the SBA, defund venture capital firms like the Fearless Fund. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are committed to expanding those tools of opportunity and making sure that we have access to capital and contracts both in the private and the public sector. So I know we have more work to do, but we have to get across this finish line this November. I am one of 4 what we call frontline members in the Congressional Black Caucus. It's me, Don Davis, from North Carolina, Amelia Sykes from Ohio, and Johanna Hayes from Connecticut. We also have 4 additional what we call red to blue candidates: Janelle Bynum out in Oregon, Shamari Figures in Alabama, and of course, Mondaire Jones in New York. These are opportunities for us to win what are currently red districts, turning them blue, making the majority in the House, which will mean Hakeem Jeffries becomes the next speaker, the first Black speaker of the House of Representatives, and we return 5 CBC members to full committee chairs over a number of key important committees, including financial services, homeland security, education and labor, foreign affairs, and of course, agriculture. But in addition to that, 30 members of the Congressional Black Caucus become chairs of subcommittees over every major jurisdiction. Now, why is this important? Because when we want the president to get something done, you've got to have members in the House who have power of the gavel to bring those bills up, to pass them out of the subcommittees or the full committees, to bring them to the floor where Hakeem Jeffries will be the speaker, to get them to the Senate so that we can get them across the finish line and to the president's desk. None of that happens unless we turn out and vote. So I'm encouraging all the brothers out there to make sure that we're not only registered to vote, that we've checked our registration, that we make sure that it's active. You can do that by going to iwillvote.com, making sure that everyone in our family, in our businesses, in our place of work, and our place of worship are registered to vote. And then we mobilize people to get out to vote. Finally, let me just say that it's not only about voting, but it's also about holding those of us who are elected accountable once we are in office to move the agenda. And I do understand the importance of having a Black wealth agenda. That is what the Congressional Black Caucus has been working on, and we'll be ready on day one with Democrats in the majority and Kamala Harris in the White House to move that agenda forward. So let's get out there. Let's make sure that we win this and then win for our people going forward. So thank you all for allowing me to jump on. Please visit me at stephenhorsford.com. I'm one of the battleground districts that we also have to win out in Nevada. We're going to do that with all of your support.
All right, then. So we certainly appreciate that, Congressman Stephen Horsford, my alpha brother, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Thanks a bunch. Folks, joining us right now is Darius Brown, Delaware State Senator. Also, keep in mind, happening there as well, we are likely going to get a sister back into the United States Senate, and that is Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester. She is running for United States Senate there in Delaware. And so we can't wait to support her in that effort. So if y'all in Delaware, make sure you cast your ballot for her. Let's go right to State Senator Darius Brown. You there?
I am. Good to see you, Brother Roland, and all the brothers that are here tonight on tonight's call. I want to talk a little bit about our politics and why our politics are local and the impact that it has when we elect African Americans in state legislatures, when we show up to vote as Black men, and how that enhances what's going to happen with Vice President Harris, but also the majority in the United States Senate and House. And what that was allowing us to do here in the state of Delaware, where we were able to appoint the first African-American Supreme Court justice recently. We were also able to add more African-Americans to the Delaware judiciary. We're able to adopt adult expungement, which was not legislation here in the state, and working with our Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, replicating her clean slate bill for automatic expungement in Congress here in the state of Delaware, where over 200,000 Delawareans now have had their records automatically expunged. We've been able to invest and build the first new public school in the city of Wilmington, an $86 million investment because of federal funds and how they've been able to be brought to the state of Delaware, and we're driving to improve public education. So for the brothers that are on this call, as we are going to make sure that we show up in November and vote for Vice President Harris, we're going to show up and make sure that we can get that Senate majority here in Delaware by electing our Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester to the United States Senate. We want to make sure that we also increase Democratic representation in the House of Representatives so that Brother Hakeem Jeffries can be the Speaker of the House. But locally also, when we show up to vote, it is the trickle-down effect. It is the effect of not only those that are going to be elected at the national level, but for a brother like myself, who's the only African-American man that serves in the Delaware State Senate. It's about electing more African-Americans to the state legislature and how we're able to invest and improve our communities because of that. So whether it's in our barbershop or in our churches or in our Masonic halls, or even within our neighborhoods, at our neighborhood bars or clubs, to engage our friends, particularly African-American men, around registering to vote, about getting active and participating in this election process and showing up to vote in November and throughout this early voting, absentee voting process that exists in many states. So for us in Delaware, we're going to show up blue, but we also want to make sure that African-American men are working with Brother Austin and friends of mine like Representative Jordan Harris and others in Pennsylvania, so that Pennsylvania shows up and is blue as well, so that we can have that victory in states like that as well. So again, I want to thank you all for allowing me to be on tonight's call, and for all of the brothers that are here. Just want to reemphasize that to this election, we're going to make sure that we elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States, but also we're going to ensure that we have representation at the local and congressional level as well, which is so important to us.
All right, then. State Senator Darius Brown, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, let's go to Arizona. Former Arizona State Representative Jevin Hodge, he joins us right now. That, again, is another one of those battleground states on the presidential side, but also on the U.S. Senate side as well. Jevin, go right ahead.
Roland, thank you so much for having me here today, and it is a great honor to be here with you. I want to start by saying I'm giving you my love and my condolences. We're with you, brother. We're uplifting you, and we're wrapping you in love and prayer. Just know that we got your back, as you have always had our back. My name is Jevin Hodge, former state representative from the great state 48, Arizona, where I have served as the former vice chairman of the Arizona Democratic Party. And in 2022, my congressional seat in Scottsdale, Arizona was the 6th closest seat in the country. Like my brother, Mandela Barnes, my seat was decided 8 days after the election, and it was decided by 3,197 votes, which is less than 1%. So when you believe that your vote doesn't matter, when you think that your vote doesn't matter, I, Mandela Barnes, we are living proof that every vote matters. And here, let me break it down for you here in Arizona. Just recently, you might have seen on TV, Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz hosted the largest political rally in Arizona history, clocking in over 15,000 people. They tried to say it was fake news. No, I was there. The energy was popping. It was live. And let me just express that importance. In 2020, President Biden won Arizona by a margin of 0.03%. And let me just tell you this, that was 10,457 votes. 10,457 votes decided the presidential election in 2020. And I can tell you this, it's going to come down to a margin like that again here in 2022. We got Ruben Gallego running for the United States Senate. He is going to mop the floor with Kari Lake. And we need your help. We need your support. We need you to engage in Arizona. To give you an idea what the landscape looks like here in the state legislature, it is a 1-seat divide in the House and the Senate, 29-31 split in the House, 14-16 split in the Senate. We can flip both chambers. We can give Governor Katie Hobbs the governing majority so we can fight back for some pro-Arizona, pro-people solutions here. And with that, Black people in Arizona make up about 5% of the population. So when you look at that, about 4.1 million registered voters in Arizona, Black people make up about 20 to 25%. We alone will decide this election in 2024. And so we got to get out there. If you're in a blue state, consider making some calls in Arizona. Consider donating a few dollars to Arizona candidates and the infrastructure here that we're building in Arizona. And here's the cherry on top. We have a remarkable Black woman who is running to be the Maricopa County Attorney, Tamika Wooten, who will be the first ever Black county official and the first ever Black woman to serve as county attorney in the 4th largest county in America. We have an opportunity to make history here in Arizona. Early voting starts on October 9th, and nearly 75% of registered voters in 2022 applied to be on the early voting rolls. So look, we got to get out there. I vote because my mother has a pre-existing condition, and we got to make sure our people are protected. I vote because we got to do everything that we can to address the housing crisis. I vote because we want to put more dollars in people's pockets. I vote because my ancestors died for my right to be able to do so. So I got one question for you. Are you with me? Let's get out there. Let's do this. Let's rock the show. Arizona, just like Michigan, just like Pennsylvania, just like Wisconsin, just like Georgia, will be one of the consequential states in the union that will decide the future of this country. Thank you, my brothers. Thank you, Black men. Thank you for stepping up. Look, we can't just leave it to the sisters to save this country. We got to do our part too. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, Roland.
Oh, all right, then. We certainly appreciate you joining us, Jevin. So earlier, I think it was Mike, no, it was Khalil made a reference to today. So yeah, it is correct. 61 years ago, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom took place here in Washington, D.C. Of course, Dr. King gave that speech known as I Have a Dream speech, but actually was called Normalcy No More. But also keep in mind, 69 years ago on this day, Emmett Till was lynched in Mississippi. That took place August 28th, 1955. And many of us were there 16 years ago in Denver, when on this date, then Senator Barack Obama accepted the Democratic nomination for president in the stadium there in Denver. And so just wanted to give you those historical footnotes that took place again on this day, August 28th, in different years. Joining us right now, folks, is Kevin Olasanoye. I hope I pronounced that correct. He is the executive director for the Democratic Party in Georgia. Georgia is a critical battleground state. Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Tim Walz, they are there in Georgia today, touched down today. They had some events in different parts around Savannah. They will be holding a rally in Savannah, Georgia tomorrow. And of course, Savannah, Georgia is the hometown of Georgia United States Senator, my alpha brother, Raphael Warnock. So let's go to Kevin. Kevin, you're on mute.
It's only taken 4 years.
There you go.
Where the movement in Israel. Thank y'all for having us tonight. I appreciate it.
Kevin, hold on, Kevin. I didn't hear you. You said it only took 4 years for what?
I said it only took 4 years for me to find where the mute button is on a virtual call. I appreciate you. Our hearts and our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. Thank you to our brothers who organized the call. I'm honored to be on here tonight. Look, I'm here for 3 reasons. The first reason is my Black son, Elijah, who will be 4 years old next year. And I just don't want to have the talk with him, the talk that we brothers have to have with our sons about what we're supposed to do whenever we have an interaction with law enforcement. I want him to live in a world where he can do and say as he please, like his white brothers and sisters do as they please with law enforcement, and they can make it back home safe at the end of the day. My second reason is my daughter, Destiny. She's almost 2 years old. And, I want her to live in a world where she doesn't make 75 cents on the dollar as her Black brother or her white brothers and sisters. And I want her to live in a world where she has the ability to make choices about what happens with her body whenever she wants to. Because I just believe that there's not enough room for a doctor in the same hospital room as her and all the people that she wants to make those decisions. And 3, I'm in it because I don't believe that I get to sit on the sidelines when it comes time to building the future that I believe that we should have as Black people. And as Black men, I believe that everybody, every generation is called to roll up their sleeves and put their hand on the arc of the moral universe to bend it towards justice. I don't believe it happens on its own. It happens because each of us step up to the plate when the time is necessary to put our hand on it and force it to bend. So I'm really excited about the work that we're doing in Georgia. I'm really excited about everything that we got going on here. Don't believe the polls. Don't believe what you hear on television. We are going to win the 16 electoral votes for Kamala Harris and Governor Walz in Georgia in 2024. In 2020, they said we couldn't do it. They didn't believe us. In 2022, they said it was a fluke. We weren't going to be able to get it done. And time again, we have shown in Georgia, we set the trends. We did it even at the convention, right? We broke the roll call. We broke the internet. It's broken forever. It'll never be the same again. That's Georgia. That's how we do it. That's how we believe we're going to have to do it. We think big, we dream big, but we also put in the work. There are 175 people on the ground here doing work in Georgia. There are 25 offices happening open all over the state of Georgia. We are doing the work to do two things. First, we're going to organize ourselves into a victory. And second, we're going to protect that victory at the courthouse steps, right? So that means...
Kevin, can you do me a favor? Can you explain to folks, because get what the VP and Governor Walz are doing. I was there on the ground for Warnock in 2020, 2022, where, again, a lot of folks want to focus on Atlanta. But the reality is the reason they won, the reason, remember, Purdue came within 0.3% of actually beating Ossoff. And the reason Biden-Harris won is because Black folks were mobilized in non-Atlanta areas. And that is, the focus was on Jonesboro, Statesboro, Albany, Athens, Savannah. And so what I need people to understand is we don't need everybody and their mama organizing in Atlanta. That's needed. We need maximum turnout in the Atlanta metro area. We've got to be hitting the rural parts of Georgia where there are lots of Black people to make sure that we are running up big numbers there too.
Yeah, Roland, I think the plan here in Georgia is three approaches, right? You're absolutely right. 70% of the state's population lives in the metro Atlanta area. So we got to win there. We got to run up our numbers there, which means our Black sisters have to show up. But yes, our Black brothers have to show up too. And at the Democratic Party of Georgia, I learned this from my brother, Quentin James. We don't call them low propensity voters. I don't believe in that. We call them low investment voters. I believe the reason why some of them don't vote is because we don't spend the time trying to talk to them and meet them where they're at. So in Georgia, that is what we're doing. That's a critical part of the puzzle. I also believe there is a very small sliver, if you can believe this, Roland, of the population of the electorate that is legitimately on the fence on this election. They either don't know Kamala Harris and her record, or they know Donald Trump and they think that because he sent them a stimulus check in 2020, that everything was all good on his watch. And we got to talk to those people and remind them what it was like to live in Donald Trump's America in 2019 and 2020, right? America fired this guy for a reason, and we're gonna have to remind those folks why we did that. But then absolutely, Roland, I'm calling it the 5% plan, and that's everywhere outside of Metro Atlanta. We just need 5% more raw Democratic vote out of every place that Donald Trump and Herschel Walker won by 10 points or more, and here's what that means. That means Kamala Harris wins by a mile. That means Stacey Abrams is the governor of Georgia right now. That means Charlie Bailey is the lieutenant governor of Georgia right now. That means Jennifer Jordan is the attorney general in Georgia. It means that there is a Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate in Georgia. And what that means is that Georgia is not one of the only 9 states in America that hasn't expanded Medicaid, that doesn't have a plan to feed hungry kids, right? There are real implications for all the work that we're doing. And that's why we're hustling. That's why we're working so hard to make sure that we do everything we possibly can. So when you see the vice president and the governor doing a rural tour in Savannah, it's not by accident, right? They understand the numbers as much as we do. They have to go to the places where the votes are. There's a small place in South Georgia called Valdosta. Most people around the country don't even know where that is, but that is a small town in South Georgia that Raphael Warnock won in 2022. And it is the reason why he is, again, a United States Senator. We're going to have to win in places like that in order to be able to be successful, right? And that's the plan, right? We squeeze every ounce of toothpaste out of the tube in Atlanta, but we show up everywhere else that matters. And we remind people who are legitimately on the fence about what it's going to take and what the plan is for where we're going. Because as much as elections are about where we've come from, they're also about charting a future for my son Elijah and my daughter Destiny that I was talking about. So I'm honored to be here with y'all tonight. Look, if you're looking to get involved, if you're looking to make an impact, Georgia, we set the trends. I believe wholeheartedly we are going to win here. And when we win here in Georgia, we are going to win everywhere else. And we're going to do the thing that we have come to try to do. So I appreciate y'all. If you're looking to get involved, www.georgiademocrat.org. My finance director will kill me if I don't say, throw us a couple dollars, 5, 10, whatever you can. It goes a long way. When this election is over and most of the country is going away, we got $4 million worth of lawsuits ahead of us to try to protect the win that we earn, right? Because we know that Republicans are going to do everything they can to try to snatch this win away from us. And we're going to need the resources and the help from people on this call and everywhere around the country. I'm honored to be on here. Thank you for all y'all are doing. I've been watching. I can't believe y'all raised all that money that y'all raised a couple weeks ago. I'm here with y'all in spirit. Just know it. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank y'all.
All right. Kevin, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let me remind all the brothers as well who are on this call. About $1.5 million was raised. About $1 million went to the campaign, but $450,000 is going directly to various Black male organizations. When we were at the convention at the Collective PAC brunch, Quentin James announced those groups, and so we're going to do that a little bit later. Once we get towards the end, going to have Quentin name those groups again that they're receiving those grants, who are going to be doing on the ground work to specifically turn Black men out. Folks, a little bit earlier on Roland Martin Unfiltered, I talked to rapper Yellow Pain, who in 2020 did a video called "My Vote Don't Count," and he said that he was one of those folks who didn't understand how voting was connected, not just where everything is not just the presidential race, but all going from the top to bottom, bottom to top. And so, in case you have not seen that video, he did it with 7th Streeter. I want to play that for you because every single one of us should be grabbing this video on YouTube. You should be downloading on your phone because he's speaking to a lot of brothers and sisters who do not understand politics, who do not understand how these things are connected. So, Keenan, roll it.
I know the world won't give me nothing, so I gotta take it. And I know it's a way we can win. Why won't nobody say it? It don't matter where we from, suburbs or the slums. They don't wanna see us winning, they'd rather keep us down. Could have a walk, but we don't know how. Don't let them tell you that your vote don't count.
Well, he was in office for 8 years, bro. Still ain't getting nothing done for it.
Bro, you and me done worked at this barbershop them whole 8 years, bro. They don't care about us, bro.
No, that's facts, though. I really don't even remember the last time a president did something for us, to be honest.
Yeah, I ain't trying to go out in that sun and vote.
Bro, you literally don't know what you're talking about, man.
First thing first, you know, back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now, none of them 3 people make no laws. They just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We got to focus on the legislative branch. Yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do. Okay, y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't never even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though. So you know how back in 08, when we all voted for Obama, we was all supposed to go back in 2010 and vote for the Congress. Cause they the ones make child support laws. They the ones choose if your kids at school get to eat steak or corn dogs. The State House make the court costs. So if the country failed, then you can't say it's them, it's your fault. Cause y'all ain't know to vote for Congress members that was for y'all. And they don't gotta leave after 4 years, and we just let them sit. See, they don't wanna tell you this, they want you to focus on the president. Now the third branch is the judicial, that's judges. They the reason why John Crawford and Trayvon ain't had justice. So when Meek Mill got locked up just for popping willies, we blame the judge and not the city when they let her get voted in, cause they ain't know who to vote against. Imagine life on the other side. Roads better, schools better, everybody get their license back, grocery store food better, custody of your kids back, homeless people get new shelters. If we gonna fix the U.S., we gotta start with them 2 letters. Me and you. Somebody told us that the government want to keep us broke, but the only reason why those people in the government is because we ain't vote. And I ain't talking about the president, I'm talking about the ones we ain't know. See, they was gonna try to keep it low, but it's gonna hurt them when they see the pros.
I know the world won't give me nothing, so I gotta take it. And I know it's a way we can win. Why won't nobody say it? It don't matter where we from, suburbs or the slums. They don't wanna see us winning, they'd rather keep us down. Could have a war, but we don't know how. Don't let them tell you that your vote don't count.
Again, folks, that's important because we need to be messaging to as many people as possible how these dots are connected, because come November, there are numerous races on the ballot: presidential, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, gubernatorial, state rep, state senators, county commissioners, district attorneys, state school board of education, local school boards, city council, DAs, district judges. I mean, you name it. And so all of those things are important. Folks, let's go to Meredith Horton. She's the National Director of Voter Protection for the Harris-Walz campaign. How did a woman sneak on this call? Hey, Meredith, how you?
Don't tell. Well, thank you for the invite, Roland, Michael, Khalil. I am, in fact, honored to be on this call for a number of reasons. One, I am the woman who snuck onto the call. And two, of course, it is always wonderful to be in the company of engaged, energized Black men. I do this work and come to this call in the name of my late father, all the way through to my brand new nephew, Theo, who was born in Atlanta on June 27th this year. So really, really honored to be here. My name is Meredith Horton. I am the National Director for Voter Protection and Access for the Harris-Walz campaign. It feels good to say it. Here in headquarters, we can all feel the energy of this moment, of supporters like you all, of volunteers, hopefully like you all as well, who are really powering this campaign. Last week during convention, it was the biggest organizing week of the campaign. We had volunteers sign up for nearly 200,000 new shifts. That is awesome and powerful. And we really must keep that momentum going because voting season is here. In North Carolina, the state will start mailing ballots to voters on September 6th, literally right after Labor Day, right around the corner. In Pennsylvania, in some counties, voters can begin voting as soon as September 16th. So that's why I'm so excited to talk to you all today, to talk about voter protection, a little bit about what it is, what we're building this cycle to make sure that voters are able to cast that ballot, have that ballot count, and make sure that this election is certified. I will also, of course, have an ask for you all, which is to sign up and join us in the effort to protect the vote as well. So a little bit about me, again, the woman who stuck onto the call. I have been working and involved in voter protection and voting rights work as a lawyer for over a decade, both in the Democratic campaign ecosystem where I started in Georgia. So shout out to Kevin, who continues to hold down that state, And I've also done this work on the nonpartisan side. I'm also really proud to have spent quite a bit of time doing this work in the South, where we know our voters are and where our voters of color are represented more heavily and often are facing really significant burdens and barriers historically and still sometimes in present day. So for me, doing this work means this is how I engage in the project of democracy. So in order for all of us to really see that thriving, inclusive, multiracial democracy that we deserve and that we continue to demand, it does require, as I know others on the call have said, all of us to figure out how we can plug in. For some of us, that looks like campaign work. It looks like running for office. It looks like dedicating your work to your energy to doing this work for nonprofit organizations. And it also is just as important to plug in to democracy by going and casting that ballot, making sure your neighbors and family members have checked their registration and know how to register. All of that counts. All of that is really important. And we're excited to find places for all of you to plug in to the campaign. So just to talk a little bit about our candidate and our ticket, which we are very excited about. So we know that Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are fighting for the people, for our freedoms, for our future. We've also seen that Donald Trump is only fighting for himself. So this is why it's so important and exciting to support this ticket. We are committed to strengthening our democracy and protecting our freedoms. Vice President Harris told us last week at convention that when we elect her and Governor Walz, we will finally have the opportunity to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, kind of critical pieces of legislation to continue to safeguard our right to vote. We know that as senator, she introduced the Vote Safe Act, which aimed to expand early in-person voting, no excuse, mail-in voting, and drop boxes across the country, all things that make it easier for folks to cast a ballot and have that ballot count. And under the Biden-Harris administration, we saw the DOJ double its number of voting rights attorneys and enforcement staff. So they are prepared, again, to make sure that we are protecting the right to vote and being aggressive about it. So as I said at the top, in voter protection, our central job is really to make sure that every eligible voter who wants to cast a ballot can do so and have that ballot count, and make sure that those elections are certified. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're building to do that. So right now, we've got over 100 staff in 12 states, and that will continue to grow as we get closer and closer to Election Day. So we are standing up or have stood up teams in Arizona, in Nevada, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, and Maine so far. And this team is complemented by a really strong legal program that has been developing expertise on the laws and legal landscape in our top battleground states since last fall. So we work hand in hand together to monitor issues and barriers to voters as they arise, and make sure that we're using tools like litigation and going to the courthouse when necessary in order to protect that right to vote. And the legal team has been involved in nearly 24 lawsuits across the country so far aimed at protecting voters. So my staff will be working over the next 60 plus days to counter all the attacks on voting rights and to shore up our election system so that they work for our voters. And there's three main elements of our program. So one, expanding access to the ballot, two, protecting elections, and three, educating voters. So when we talk about expanding access, we are working hard and have been since well before this moment here, since earlier this year, to remove barriers to the ballot box and to proactively look for opportunities to expand access to voting. So we are true advocates in voter protection. We do this building on the work of previous cycles. We recognize that by and large, voters now do have more ways to cast a ballot than ever, a lot of which is due to changes implemented during 2020 in the pandemic, such as expanded vote by mail. And so while we've seen expansions, we have, of course, also seen states that are trying to roll back some of that access. And so we've been tracking this and are on the case. To give you a few examples, in Georgia, for months, MAGA Republican members of the state election board have been laying the groundwork to try to block certification of the 2024 election if Donald Trump loses. Just another effort to try to steal the Georgia election like Trump tried to do in 2020. We are taking proactive steps to stop them and protect the integrity of our elections. So, for example, just this week, the DNC, the Georgia Democratic Party, and the campaign all sued the state election board in Georgia to prevent them from upending the mandatory certification of election process that Georgia law requires. And they tried to do this just weeks before voting begins. But no, again, we are on the case, taking them to court to prevent that from happening so that when you cast that ballot and we get through election day, that those elections are all certified as they are legally required to be. In North Carolina, we know that early voting is really popular, particularly among communities of color. We have been advocating for early voting sites for months, to making sure that there are locations that are accessible to all voters. We continue to follow up that those locations, to make sure those locations are not eliminated as we get closer in time to voting. In Nevada, we are working with voters whose mail ballots have been rejected in the past for mismatched signatures. So sometimes when the signature on your ballot doesn't match the signature on file with the elections office, your ballot ends up rejected. We've been working directly with voters to update their signatures so their ballots are less likely to be rejected this fall. And in Michigan, another example, we are advocating for more satellite clerk's offices with the hope that additional locations can help eliminate long lines that college students and others tend to face historically in that state. And those are concerns that we are addressing similarly in other states as well where they're arising. So that expanding access piece, again, has been going on since early this year, and we'll continue that work and that advocacy work right up until the end of the election. So the second main element is protecting elections. This is work we've been doing for decades. So we will be on the ground to protect voters as they cast their ballot. This is the real part of the program where we mobilize thousands and thousands of volunteers across the country. And I'm hoping many of you sign up to join our programs in our battleground states. This is a poll monitoring program in part and a hotline program. Our poll monitoring program puts individuals just like you all out in polling places across the country. So we make sure that you are trained, that you are supported by resources both in hand and back in boiler rooms and campaign offices. But those poll monitors really become our eyes and ears on the ground to ensure that voting is safe and fair. These volunteers are absolutely critical to our campaign. They are able to tell us, for example, if there's a 3-hour line in Fulton County polling location on a Sunday, is it because there's a long line of excited Harris Waltz voters who came out as part of a huge Souls to the Poll effort? And so folks are hyped, they're excited to vote for Democrats up and down the ballot. Or is that really long line there because 4 out of 7 voting machines inside the polling place have malfunctioned and the county's tech team is taking too long to respond? Either way, we're on the case, but as a poll monitor, you're really our source of information that's close to the ground to let us know what's happening with the conduct of elections in real time. So it's a really powerful network of volunteers that provides information to the campaign to make sure we can fix problems as they're happening if we didn't get to it before it happened. Lastly, we will also really focus on educating voters. Voter education, so critical this cycle. As we continue to see mis and disinformation, as we kind of consider the impact of AI on voting information, it is really, really important that voters know they have accurate, credible information on where to vote, when to vote, and how to vote. I'm so excited to see I Will Vote and the hotline running across the bottom of the screen, because it's exactly where I want to send you all and where I encourage you to send your communities, your networks as well for that accurate information. I Will Vote It's available in multiple languages, as is the hotline as well. So we will make sure through voter protection, also working with our digital teams, our comms teams, to really push out resources so folks know where to go for that credible information. So those are really the three sort of pillars of our program. Again, also supported by post-election work as well. We'll make sure that our poll monitors are monitoring not only just the voting period, but the counting of ballots as well. And we, along with our legal team, are really preparing for all the way through the certification process. So now is the time when I ask you all, or I let you all know how you can get involved with our program. So voter protection.
Yep, you got about 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So voter protection is something that anyone can do, whether you're a lawyer or not a lawyer. I'm going to drop links in the chat to show you how to get involved and how you can sign up. We have poll observers, we have hotline volunteers where you're providing information to voters, answering their questions, and other roles as well. And we would love to see you out there. It is one of the most rewarding things you can do. And you build your own knowledge about voting and the conduct of elections that you can share forever with your communities and with your families. So we really hope you'll join us and get this win for Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, and Democrats up and down the ballot.
All right, then, Meredith, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Again, look, the campaign is doing this. Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, they're doing the exact same thing. There are other outside groups as well. And so there's a whole lot going on to protect folks' right to vote. I know the National Bar Association is also mobilizing and organizing as well. And so all of that is relevant and critically important. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, we're only going to have about 4 more minutes here. So what I want to do is I want to go pull up Quentin James and Mike Blake to give us some final thoughts. Also, keep in mind, everybody on this call, we're going to be doing these calls between now and the election. We're going to be bringing on other guests, giving you relevant information, sharing information with you, such as voter registration deadlines by state. And so because it's creating not just because there are 2 deadlines. You've got general registration deadline. You got absentee ballot deadlines, and so we're going to be having those for you. We're also going to be sharing with you when early voting starts and when it ends, because we do not want folks to wait for election day. If your state has early voting, we want you to be able to get out there and vote early. So let's go to Mike Blake and Quentin James.
Brother Martin, I'm actually on the move right now, about to go do a hit, but I wanted to make sure to show everybody this. Let's not forget what today is. The anniversary of March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. As a reminder, they had 10 demands to lay out for our people, policy demands. And shout out to those forefathers and our ancestors and those that are still with us who did the work. You know, Reverend Dr. Gerald Durley, who says, if I can, you can. And so I hold this up as a reminder of the work we have to do, not just tonight, but every night. As we celebrate the anniversary of the March on Washington, brothers, we are doing something special. Remember, we had 54,000 on our first call. Now we got work to do. So please check your registration status. Please go and volunteer in your offices. Make phone calls, knock on doors, donate, mobilize in all the ways that you can right now. iwillvote.com will show you how you can get connected. But remember, as you heard throughout this call, voting does not start at the end in November. A lot of voting begins in about 3 weeks. So if we don't see you before then, focus on what's going on for Labor Day. Vice President Harris will be in Michigan. Focus on what's happening across the country at CBC. Of course, we'll all see you all in DC, but we need people to get ready and never forget what today is, our March on Washington anniversary. It reminded us about jobs and freedom. This is what we do when Black men come together. Shout out to Bayard Rustin. Shout out to Dr. King. Shout out to John Lewis. So all those that open up doors. But let's also honor our sister, Dr. Dorothy Irene Height, who allowed for spaces for brothers like us to be able to do what we're doing right now. To Roland, love you, brother. Grateful for you. We bless your family and all that's happening. And we are all in this together because we got work to do. Let me turn over to Brother Quentin James for all that he's doing right now.
Mike Blake, thanks a lot. Be safe. Quentin James with Collective Pack. All right, we got Quentin there. Let's pull Quentin on in. He'll be our final, he'll give us some final marching orders before we close this out. Quentin?
He's not here.
All right, so Quentin is not there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. First of all, let me shout out to my man Desmond Meade, Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. I'm rocking their shirt, Let My People Vote. They, of course, were successful in getting the state amendment passed, allowing 1.4 million formerly incarcerated folks there to be able to get their right to vote back. Folks, those battles continue in Nebraska. They actually had a bill that was passed that was restoring the voting rights of some 7,000 folks. But the Nebraska Attorney General and the Secretary of State just declared on their own law to be unconstitutional. They're now in court. And so I had, of course, segment on my show yesterday about that. So please check that out. So you need to understand these battles are happening all across the country as Republicans are trying to shave as many votes as possible. They want to restrict folks because they are on record as saying if more people vote, they lose. Literally, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton used a false report from Maria Bartiromo on Fox News to raid the home of an 87-year-old Latina in Texas. LULAC is calling for the Department of Justice to investigate. He did an interview with Steve Bannon where he literally said he stopped the absentee balloting that was taking place in Harris County. He said that if that had went forward, he said Trump would have lost Texas. So understand what is going on all across this country. And so that's where voter protection is so critically important. Let me thank everybody who's been involved with this call, our co-conveners. And again, over the next 70 days, you're going to have more calls. We're going to have posters on. We're going to have people talking exactly what's going on, fundraising, polling, all that information so you can be fully equipped when it comes to this election. Don't forget to be sure to register with winwithblackmen.org. Please do that so we can have your data so we can let you know via text message, via email, what is going on. You also have right there, how do you give? Remember, when you're giving, you get to choose whether you want the money to go to the campaign or you want the money to be used for grassroots groups, because we have to be activating on the ground. We know there are critical battleground states. Again, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. But you see what's happening. Look at expand the map. Critical races in Florida, races in other states as well. So we cannot ignore. We can't only focus on the top of the ticket. We got to focus on all those down ballot races. So we're maximizing our power. My goal is very simple. I say this all the time on the show. We want to be maximizing where at least 70% of all eligible Black voters are casting ballots. At least 70. We do that, we can win tons of races. Do y'all realize Texas has the largest number of eligible Black voters in America? The largest number. We've got to be maximizing that number. Also, speaking of Texas, when Beto O'Rourke ran against Governor Greg Abbott in 2022, 75% of voters under the age of 30 did not vote. So we got to tell millennials and Gen Z, use your power, not just on Instagram, not just on TikTok, use your power at the ballot box. So folks, that is it for us. Let me thank all of our co-hosts as well. Let me thank all of you. Don't want to hold you long, folks. Appreciate y'all being on this call. And until next time, we'll see you on Win with Black Men. Y'all take care. Holla.